I'm going to continue reading about George Washington's life. It's his biography, all right? And I had read, let's see what I had read already. Who was George? So we learned about him when he was younger and growing up, and he spent most of his time with his brother. And then he had to teach himself because his father died and he had to come work on the farm, the plantation, right? Large field. All right. Today I'm going to continue with, hold on, Mount Vernon. That was the name of his home that he lived in when he was growing up, right? So, sadly, when George was 20, his brother Lawrence died. Remember, Lawrence was 14 years older, so Lawrence would have been 34. Later, George became the owner of Mount Vernon. In 1759, George married Martha Curtis. They were happy together at Mount Vernon. Did you know he didn't have a middle name? All right, here we go to the next. In 1776, America's leaders signed the Declaration of Independence. It said America had the right to be free and to make its own rules. The British didn't agree. They sent troops to fight. That was called the Revolutionary War. This is when we became the United States. Revolutionary War, America's fight for independence from Britain. All right, here he is. A very famous drawing. For 8 long years, the war went on, and the British were tired of fighting a war far away from home. They were all the way on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, so they hadn't seen their families in 8 years. The British were beginning to run out of supplies and money. Finally, they gave up in 1783. America had won its freedom. So this is a very famous painting. This is on Christmas Day in 1776. George Washington led his soldiers across the frozen Delaware River. They made a surprise attack on the British troops the next morning. George's men won the battle. It gave them hope that they could win the war. And this is George as a general right here. 5 cool facts about George Washington. Shall we read? 1. He had false teeth made from things like lead and ivory. He did not have wooden teeth. A lot of people thought he had wooden teeth, but he had ivory, so elephant tucks, or lead, which would not have been healthy to be in his mouth. He was born on February 22nd, but today most Americans celebrate his birthday on the 3rd Monday of that month, often called President's Day. We had it as a holiday. We had talked about Abraham Lincoln and George before that holiday. Number 3. He liked fox hunting on horseback. One of his favorite horses was named Blueskin. A little bit, maybe. Number 4, he liked cornmeal pancakes called hoe cakes with butter and honey for breakfast. And number 5, he was very tall, almost 6'3". He had size 13 feet. That is big. Okay. Our very first president. Here he is. How would this new country work? In 1787, men from each state came together to write new rules for the United States. They called these rules the Constitution. We still have that today. Those are our rules. Then they had to choose a new leader. George Washington was elected the first president of the United States in 1789. It was a big job to unite the new country. Unite means to bring together. United we stand, right? When we say that, we pledge, united we stand. That's important that we all work together and stand together, people. Very important. In their own words, George Washington's friend, Henry Lee III, said that Washington was the first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. Any idea why they thought he would be a good president? That's one of the things I want you to be thinking about this week, okay? George Washington became president on April 30th, 1789. He didn't want to be called King Washington or have people bow to him. He chose to be called president. So he wasn't going to act like a king and make everybody in the United States do what he wanted to do. All right. This is a timeline and it has dates on it and it's all his important stuff in his life. So home again. After 8 years as president, George gave up his power. He was happy to go home to Mount Vernon again. He had many visitors. He rode his horse every day. In December 1799, George got sick with a bad sore throat. There was no medicine in his time to cure him. He was 67-year-old when he died. So some of the dates on here would be his birth date of 1732. Another thing was when the Declaration of Independence was signed, 1776. And at the end is when he died, 1799. So that's different dates you would see on a timeline. We always stopped by our reading buddies, right? One of the things we saw was their timelines, and you loved looking at their timelines. In his honor, so we have done things in this country to remember our first president. George Washington was greatly loved. He is the only president to have a state named after him, Washington State, out west, north of California. His face is on the dollar bill, the quarter, and the U.S. postage stamp. So if you can see the map, we're over here. Washington State's way up here. All right. Washington, D.C., America's capital, is also named after George Washington. That makes sense. George Washington is one of 4 presidents carved into a rock of Mount Rushmore National Memorial in South Dakota. Has anybody ever seen those? I'd love to see that. South Dakota. Oh, I have seen this. I think other people in our class have. Yes. This is the Washington Monument. George Washington was the only president who did not live in the White House. So there was no White House at that time. At 555 feet, the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. is the world's tallest stone structure. Did not know that. Interesting fact. Oops, sorry. What in the world? Here's our close-up pictures of George Washington's time. Use the hints below to figure out what's in each picture. The answers are on page 31. All right, hint. The main way George Washington traveled from place to place was, you're right, horse. Paper money with Washington's picture on it. The dollar bill. You're right. Nice job. This is the glossary. It's going to give us our words, and it's a picture glossary. Okay? So think about it. What was he like? What kind of citizenship qualities did he have? What kind of person was he? Was he angry all the time? Was he bossy? Was he caring? Was he brave? Do you think he was honest? What qualities do you think his friends and family thought he had that he became the first president of the United States? Was he courageous? Think about it. Did he tell the truth or did he lie, do you think, most of the time? What would you have needed to be back then to be a good president? All right, that's the end of George Washington. You have a great day, all right? Take a look at all the science and social studies that are coming this week too. Bye-bye.